The Richest Man in Babylon. 10 lessons that will change how you think about wealth. Let's start with a short story. Imagine two men growing up in the same city, studying under the same teachers, playing the same games as children, working just as hard as each other for decades. By the time they reach middle age, one of them is the wealthiest man in the entire city. The other can barely afford to feed his family. Same starting point. Same intelligence. Same work ethic. Completely different outcomes. This is how The Richest Man in Babylon begins, and the question it opens with is one of the most uncomfortable questions in personal finance. If hard work alone built wealth, why do so many hard-working people die with empty purses? Today I'm breaking down all 10 lessons from this book. Lesson 1. The Man Who Desired Gold. Why Hard Work is Not Enough. Bansir was a chariot builder in Babylon. By every measure, he was a skilled, hard-working man. He built some of the finest chariots in the city, put in long hours every single day, and lived honestly. Yet one morning, his friend Kabi found him sitting on the wall of his house, staring blankly at his empty purse, too discouraged to even pick up his tools and begin the day's work. Kabi asked him what was wrong. Bansir said something that cuts right to the heart of the entire book. I have labored hard and earned much gold, yet I have nothing to show for it. What is wrong with me? Nothing was wrong with him. That was the whole point. Bansir wasn't lazy. He wasn't dishonest. He simply had never been taught the difference between earning money and building wealth. He had spent his entire adult life exchanging his labor for coins, and then exchanging those coins for the life he needed to keep working, a perfect, exhausting circle that left him exactly where he started every single time. Clason uses Bansir's moment of despair as the book's opening because it's the most relatable scene in the whole story. Most people reading it have been Bansir at some point, working hard, earning money, watching it disappear, and wondering what they're doing wrong. The answer, as the rest of the book reveals, isn't to work harder. It's to finally learn the laws that actually govern how money accumulates, laws that exist whether or not anyone teaches them to you, and that punish ignorance just as silently and reliably as they reward understanding. Lesson 2. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Bansir and Kabi decide to seek out their childhood friend Arkad, the richest man in Babylon. They want to know his secret. Arkad's answer is so simple it almost doesn't sound like a secret at all. He says, I found the road to wealth when I decided that a part of all I earned was mine to keep. He goes on to explain. When you earn money and spend all of it on food, rent, clothes, and daily necessities, nothing is left and you have traded your time for zero lasting result. But when you take 1 coin from every 10 you earn and set it aside before you spend a single coin on anything else, that saved portion begins to work for you without asking for anything in return. The number Arkad gives is specific and deliberate. 10%. Not 50%. Not 20. 10. He chose this figure because he knew it was real for almost anyone, regardless of income level. Most people can live on 90% of what they earn without their life collapsing, even if it requires some discomfort at first. What matters isn't the percentage as much as the habit, the non-negotiable commitment to treating a portion of every paycheck as permanently yours before the world gets its hands on it. Clason also credits Arkad with coining the phrase, pay yourself first, which became one of the most widely cited pieces of financial advice in history. The insight is that most people pay everyone else first, their landlord, their grocer, their tailor, and then keep whatever is left for themselves. Arkad flipped that order and never looked back. That single reversal, paying himself before paying anyone else, was where his wealth began. Lesson 3. Control thy expenditures. The second cure sounds almost too obvious to need explaining. Spend less than you earn. But Clason spends significant time on it because the reason people fail at it is almost never what they think it is. Most people believe they overspend because they don't earn enough. Clason argues the opposite is closer to the truth. Our desires always expand to meet whatever income we have, and then a little beyond it. A person earning 50 coins a month has 50 coins worth of needs. A person earning 500 coins a month somehow has 500 coins worth of needs as well. The number changes, but the emptiness at the end of the month often doesn't, because lifestyle silently inflates to fill every gap that a raise creates. Arkad teaches his students to make a budget and to divide their spending into what they genuinely need versus what they merely desire. Needs are non-negotiable: food, shelter, basic clothing. Desires are everything else, the nicer version, the upgraded choice, the thing that feels necessary because everyone around you seems to have it. This is where Clason makes a subtle but important distinction. He isn't telling anyone to live miserably or deny themselves everything enjoyable. He's saying that without a deliberate written plan for where your money goes, your desires will always claim every coin that your necessities don't, leaving nothing for the 10% you promised yourself. Budgeting in his framework isn't about restriction. It's about directing your money on purpose rather than watching it vanish without a clear explanation of where it went. Lesson 4. Make thy gold multiply. Once you're saving 10% consistently and controlling your spending, the next question is obvious. What do you do with the money you've saved? Leaving it in a purse or under a mattress means it sits still and earns nothing. Clason's third cure is to put saved money to work generating more money. Arcad uses an image here that stuck with people for nearly a century. He compares gold to a worker that never tires, never complains, and never asks for a day off. Every coin you invest wisely goes to work on your behalf, and the income it generates can itself be reinvested to work even harder. Over time, this multiplying effect builds something entirely separate from your daily labor, a growing stream of income that owes nothing to the hours you put in each day. Clason is careful here about what investing means. He doesn't mean gambling or chasing rumors or putting money into something simply because a friend or a neighbor swears it will make you rich overnight. He means finding reliable places to put your money where it will return a fair and consistent income over time, whether that's lending it to trustworthy merchants who can use it productively in their trade, acquiring income-producing property that generates rent, or building a meaningful stake in a stable and well-understood business. The specific vehicles change across centuries, from Babylonian merchant caravans to modern stock portfolios and real estate, but the principle underneath hasn't moved a single inch. Saved money sitting idle in a purse is an opportunity quietly wasting away, losing value against the slow inflation of prices and the steady passage of time. Saved money put to work becomes a silent partner that earns while you sleep, accumulates through the years, and eventually grows into something far larger than the original sum ever hinted was possible when you first set it aside. Lesson 5. Guard thy treasures from loss. This is the lesson most eager investors learn too late, often after losing a significant portion of what they worked years to build. Clason's fourth cure is about protection, and the rule it teaches is one of the oldest in finance. The first goal of any investment is to not lose the money you put in. Arcad tells a story about a young man who gave his savings to a brick maker to buy jewels in a distant land. The brick maker knew nothing about jewels. He got swindled. The savings were gone. The young man had made a mistake that beginning investors make constantly. He trusted his money to someone whose skills had nothing to do with the task he was being asked to perform. Clason's rule is direct and leaves no room for interpretation. Seek counsel only from people who are genuinely competent in the specific area where you plan to invest, people who have successfully navigated that exact kind of transaction themselves, not simply people who are confident or persuasive or enthusiastic about the opportunity. And ensure that your principal, the original amount you invested, is protected and recoverable before you even begin thinking about the returns you hope to collect on top of it. A high promised return means absolutely nothing if you lose everything before you ever see it. The history of financial disasters across every era, from ancient Babylon to modern Wall Street, is largely a history of people ignoring this single principle, handing their life savings to someone persuasive rather than someone genuinely qualified, and paying a steep, sometimes irreversible price for the error. Guard what you have built with the same intensity you used to build it. Growing it comes second. Lesson 6. Make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. This lesson carries a note of nuance that often gets lost when people summarize it too quickly. Clason's fifth cure advises owning your home rather than paying rent to a landlord indefinitely. His argument is that years of rental payments leave you with nothing at the end, while mortgage payments gradually transfer ownership of a physical asset into your hands, one payment at a time. In the ancient Babylonian context, this was straightforward practical advice. A man who owns his home has eliminated one of his largest recurring expenses, giving his purse more room to breathe every month. Clason describes men who built their own homes, grew food in their gardens, and reduced their need for outside income in ways that renters never could. It's worth noting that this lesson sits in interesting tension with what modern financial thinkers like Robert Kiyosaki argue about homes as liabilities, since paying a mortgage also costs money every month and a house you live in generates no income directly. Clason's point is narrower and more practical than it might first appear. He isn't saying a home is a fast path to riches or a substitute for building a real investment portfolio. He's saying that owning the roof over your head is meaningfully better than permanently paying someone else for the privilege of living under theirs, because one path builds equity, stability, and eventually eliminates a major monthly expense, while the other path builds someone else's wealth indefinitely and leaves you with nothing tangible to show for decades of payments. Owning your home reduces your minimum monthly cost of survival, and anything that meaningfully reduces what you must spend just to keep your life running gives your savings more room to grow and your purse more room to fatten over the long years ahead. Lesson 7. Ensure a future income. Babylon, for all its wealth, had no pension systems, no government safety nets, and no retirement plans. If a man stopped working, whether by choice, by age, or by injury, whatever income he had was whatever he had personally arranged for himself in advance. Clason's sixth cure is about planning for that certainty before it arrives, rather than hoping the problem somehow solves itself later. Arcad advises his students to make provisions not only for their own old age but for their families in the event of their death or inability to work. This sounds almost obvious stated plainly, yet it's a lesson vast numbers of people in every era of history have ignored until the moment they urgently needed it, by which point it was too late to do much about it. The vehicles for this kind of security have changed enormously since ancient Babylon, from clay tablets and land deeds to retirement accounts, life insurance policies, annuities, and diversified long-term investment portfolios designed specifically to outlast the years when active income stops. But the principle underneath has never moved an inch. The time to prepare for a future where you can no longer work, whether because of age, illness, or simply the desire to stop, is right now, while you are still working and earning consistently, not at the moment when you desperately need the preparation to already be fully in place. Clason frames this not as pessimism about the future or anxiety about mortality, but as the most practical form of love for yourself and for the people who depend on you, a quiet, ongoing act of daily responsibility that most people acknowledge as genuinely important in the abstract and then keep postponing in practice, convinced there will always be more time to sort it out later, until suddenly there isn't. Lesson 8. Increase thy ability to earn. Clason's seventh and final cure is often the one readers feel most energized by, because unlike saving and investing, it focuses on expanding the input side of the equation rather than managing what already exists. Simply put, invest in yourself, in your skills, your knowledge, and your professional capability, because a more skilled person commands better compensation and opens doors that a less skilled person simply cannot reach. Arcad gives the example of a young man who desperately wanted to earn more, but had never asked himself what he was doing to become more valuable. The suggestion isn't complicated. Find the skill most useful to your work and your goals, learn it deliberately, practice it until it becomes genuinely excellent rather than merely acceptable, and then apply it in ways that demonstrate its value to the people whose decisions affect your income. Clason extends this beyond professional skills into the idea of building a reputation for honest, reliable, excellent work that people can trust, depend on, and enthusiastically recommend to others without hesitation. In Babylon as today, a reputation built through consistently outstanding work was one of the most reliable engines for increasing what you earned, without requiring any additional luck, connections, or inherited advantage beyond your own demonstrated ability over time. The wealthier you want to become, in his view, the more seriously you must take the question of what you are actually offering the world in exchange for the gold you are hoping to receive. Wealth flows toward people who reliably deliver more value than they cost, and flows away from those who merely go through the motions of working without ever pushing themselves toward genuine excellence in anything they produce. Your purse, Clason argues, is ultimately a mirror of the value you've chosen to create for others. Lesson 9. The Goddess of Good Luck. How Luck Actually Works. One evening in Babylon's Temple of Learning, a large group of men gathered to discuss a question that had been debated for centuries. Can a person attract good luck, or is it simply a random force beyond anyone's control? The discussion wandered through gambling, horse races, and found treasures before Arcad finally offered his conclusion, one that reframes luck entirely. He argued that the goddess of good luck does not favor gamblers or those who simply wish and wait. She favors those who are ready and decisive when opportunity appears. The men in the room could each recall a moment when an opportunity had crossed their path and they had hesitated, overthought it, or simply let it pass because acting on it felt risky or uncomfortable. Each of those moments, Arcad said, was the goddess knocking at the door. The people who opened it became lucky. The people who didn't convince themselves afterward that they'd never had a chance to begin with. This reframe matters enormously. Most people experience good fortune not as a random bolt from the sky, but as a moment when their preparation, their savings, their skills, and their courage all happen to intersect with an opportunity at exactly the right time. The lucky person is usually the prepared person who also happened to act when others were still deliberating. Clason's message is that you manufacture your own luck, not by wishing harder, but by becoming the kind of person whose preparation makes opportunity recognizable when it arrives, and whose courage makes it possible to do something about it before the moment passes.